I'm Ruth Moehlman from the Farmington Hills Historic District Commission, and I'm here in the Masonic Temple, which was the original township hall for all of Farmington Township, and Farmington Township is what is now Farmington Hills. There was a disastrous fire in 1872, and it destroyed a good bit of the business district of the little village in Farmington, and all the township records and the Masonic records and everything was burned. And after much discussion, they decided that with the help of the Masons who would build the upper story, the township hall was able to be built. That way they had enough money to build a township hall and enough money for the Masons to have some place to hold their meetings. So,
if I may, it cost the Masons $1,100.
$1,100 to participate with this. And it was the first building to be electrified, and it was everything took place in that township hall. They had meetings of all kinds, and they also had their meetings there. And so I am here with present day Masonic Grand Basin, Wayne Turton.
And Wayne Turton.
Very Wayne Turton. The building itself is unique. It was built by Johnson Prowl out of Pontiac, and it's definitely Victorian. There's 3 or 4 different types of architecture that went into this particular building, this beautiful building.
Gothic and the mansard type roof on it is unique to the city of Farmington. There are only probably half a dozen homes that have the roof lines that this building does. One of them is right down on Oakland Avenue between here and the street with the church, Warner Avenue. So,
yes, very unusual. In those days, they built the things out of a plan book, and he had his own plans.
Yes.
He was very unique, and it's been a really special thing. It covered all of what is today Farmington Hills, because that was the township. The Masons then, when they had trouble with the building, went and redid it. You were very much involved in the reconstruction of the building.
In 1965, the township and city moved out, and the Masons, I don't know what we paid, but we bought the entire building and completely renovated it, adding the front stairs and kitchen downstairs and all kinds of things that year. And that was the beginning of us using the entire building.
And you did some very special things. All the work was done by the Masonic members.
Just about all of it, yes.
And then the women participated. What did you do?
well, when the men were restoring the outside of the building, there was not a day went by in the 6 months that the scaffolding was around the building, that there were at least not 2, if more, ladies down here that we prepared meals for them because we wanted them to be able to go back to work in the afternoon and make the best use of their time.
That wasn't in 1965, though. That was when we
put the new roof on.
In 1977, the roof and a lot of the outside of the building was in very poor condition. Mm-hmm. And we completely renovated the building, the outside of the building at that time. We had scaffolding up around the building 6 months to the day. Mm-hmm.
How far back does Masonry go? How far back are the Masons?
Well, the Masons were actually the first recorded history of Masonry. It goes back to 1717 in England. Since that time, well, many of the Masons that came, or many of the people that came over here to the colonies were Masons and formed lodges here. I think one of the first ones, at least, was in Boston, Massachusetts, and it has grown grown considerably since then. George Washington was a Mason, was our first president, and was very active in the Masonic fraternity in Washington, D.C. and in New York, too.
Served as
There's
minister.
been, I'm not sure, but I think it's around 17 of the presidents of the United States have been Masons. The fraternity has grown to be a worldwide organization. The fraternity exists in every free country of the world. And when I say free, that means that the people are free to think for themselves. Any country that is dominated by a specific religion, any country that is dominated by a dictatorship or anything of that nature, they have basically outlawed Masonry
Really?
because Masons are taught to think for themselves. And in those countries, you don't think for yourself. They think for you. But as far as this lodge here is concerned, well, in the state of Michigan, it goes back to before the state was even formulated as a state. And Lewis Cass was one of the first governors of the state of Michigan, and he was also one of the first, I think the first Grand Master of Michigan Masons. So it goes back quite a ways.
Yes.
But Farmington 151, this lodge right here, was chartered in 1863. And with about 10 members at that time. Within a couple of years, it was up to 30 or something like that. After World War II, the lodge grew to be as many as 400 members. Masonry has declined in numbers since then, simply because people don't, it became, it got to the point where people weren't joining anything, lodges or churches or anything else. They've all been on the decline. But in recent years, we here in Farmington have enjoyed receiving several new men into our fraternity, and many of them are much younger. We find that a lot of the men that are joining now are not joining because their father was a Mason, because he was of that generation that didn't join anything, but their grandfathers belonged to the fraternity, and they always looked up to their grandfather and decided they wanted to be a Mason. So we're growing right here in Farmington, and very proud to be a member of the community.
And how is it that you got involved in the Masonic Order?
Well, after I graduated from college, I don't know, we always,
Neighbors and
we had people that were involved in the community. Her father was the principal of the high school, and I knew a lot of the men in our little town of Centerville, Ohio, and a lot of those men I looked up to as being very good, trustworthy, just good people. And come to find out that most all of them, if not all of them, were members of the Masonic fraternity. So, and my boss was a member of the Masonic fraternity too. So I asked one day how I could become a member. And that started the whole thing. I've been a member since 1954. Okay, but that's how it started. That's how I got started.
What are some of the special things you did as Grand Master?
One of the biggest things that I did as Grand Master was to dedicate the Michigan Masonic Home nursing section. It was in 1991 that I believe. It was also the 100th anniversary of the Michigan Masonic Home, which started originally in Grand Rapids and then moved out to Alma when they were donated land by a Mr. Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, Wright. And that home has grown since then, now has approximately, I think, a capacity of about 400 people, plus the village estates, which is another 38 units. It has really grown over the years, but the year I was Grand Master, we finished the building of the new nursing section, which is 200-bed nursing section, and I dedicated that.
In the meanwhile, you were working with the women.
Well, I'm a member of the Eastern Star here in Farmington, and of course we have our own charities that we support, and you know, we have a very active group here, and I do enjoy it, and I've been an officer for many years and presided. He and I both presided back in the late 80s, and enjoyed that very much. But I stayed local and gave all my support to the Farmington Chapter 239.
You've supported me a little bit too.
But, oh, yes, I supported him.
Just a little bit.
It's fun to work together as a
Yes,
couple.
it is.
Yes.
And,
And that's one thing that we have done in our entire 63 years. It's never been about either one of us. We work together and do everything basically as a team. So
Did you sponsored some of the young women that is it DeMolay?
no, young ladies as
Young
Job's daughters that were.
Yeah, that was Job's daughters, and we were active as far as some of the parents had responsibilities, and both of our daughters belong to Job's daughters, and one of them, our daughter Carol, was a Grand Bethel, which meant the state of Michigan. She was just one of the supporting officers, and of course we traveled with the girls a lot that year and enjoyed that. But unfortunately, since then, we do not have a Job's daughters in the building, but there are a couple of them very close. So, you know, any girls in Farmington that would be interested in that, you know, are more than welcome to join one of the others that's very close. So.
But the Order of DeMolay is the young men that is sponsored by the Masonic fraternity, and we were both very involved in that when we had DeMolay here in this building, and all three of our sons belonged to the local DeMolay chapter, and I don't know how I got there, but I eventually became a member of the International Supreme Council, which which is quite an honor. But and that's the governing body of all the DeMolays in the United States, Canada, Brazil. I think that's about those are the biggest places now that it exists, but there's been millions of young men gone through the Order of DeMolay, and it's a character building fraternity for young men, and been very, very happy to be a part of it.
You've done so many wonderful things for the community, and it seems like most of the leaders were Masons, most of the mayors and so forth, right down the line.
You go way back to the beginning of this of our lodge, and I think practically every mayor of the city of Farmington was a member of Farmington Masonic Lodge. In fact, when the city they were putting together a collage of all the past mayors, and they didn't have all the old pictures of they didn't have pictures of all the old mayors. They came over here and got the pictures from us and reproduced them and put them over there in the city hall. But
This is when the township was running all of what is today Farmington Hills.
and the city clerk and the city or township clerk, I believe it was even back then, and several of the
Mr. Cairns.
Floyd Carnes and
Oh,
trying to think of some of the other names, but
Floyd. Oh, he did a lot for the city.
past master of Farmington Lodge. And when in fact, it used to be that we had, that every organization had to have a blood bank in order to give blood to people that needed it. And I happen to be chairman of that here in our lodge, and Floyd Cairns needed blood. So we donated quite a bit of blood to him when he was in some of his later years. But he was a Mason, and then the city clerk was
Joanne Reynolds.
Joanne Reynolds, and her husband was a member here, past master of this lodge. And we have quite a history here of prominent men in the community that belong to the lodge.
And you do some things for the community too. What were some of the things that you did for the community? I know you always participated in the parades and things.
Well, I think the only part that I had very much to do with was during the Farmington Founders Festival. It used to be a lot different than it is now. And for a few years, the men helped the JCs with a horse show that they had up at the corner of 12 Mile and Farmington Road. Now, of course, that was before anything was built up there, and it was just flat land the whole way back. And at the same time, the youth orders, which met in the building at this time, the Job's Daughters and the DeMolay had booths, as well as the DeMolay Moms Club, which were very active to support the young men. Had booths down in the downtown center to make money to fulfill their obligations that they had. And shortly after that, one of the women in the an organization that I belong to here, the Trinity White Shrine, made a discussion during one of our meetings. You know, we have this lawn out here, and there's a parade goes by every year. Why can't we put some crafters out on the lawn? So the first year we did that had to be about 30 plus years ago, and we had 18 crafters that responded. So within about, I'd say 20 years after we had our parking lot and the yard full of crafters, we approached the city and asked them if they would mind if we placed some crafters in the lawn west of the building, which was the property of the city of Farmington. And they says, no, you go ahead and do that. So we did, and at one point, I did this job for 19 years. And at one point, we had up to 180 crafters that showed their handmade things, and we insisted that they be handmade, nothing bought to be resold. And we were full. It was a very successful thing for our Temple Association, who were the ones that were really doing the sponsoring of the, of the activity, to have the funds that were made off of that, and that is one of the ways that the men had of accumulating the money to refurbish the building. So, you know, it was very much a joy to me to be a part of that. And there were like 4 people that did it after, you know, I resigned and they took over. So, you know, there was probably 30 years ago that we had crafters out here on our lawn.
Many of the charities that we run, we have a child ID program
Oh,
that is
statewide.
it's statewide, but we have run it here locally in Farmington a few times, and
Free.
people bring their child in, and we take photographs. We ask a lot of questions. It's quite a program. And everything that, all the questions, all the pictures and everything else goes on a CD, and the family takes that with them. Mm-hmm. The Masons do not keep any of the information. It's all information that can be used. If the child shows up missing, they can hand that to the police, and they've got the voice, they've got the picture, they've got everything about,
Fingerprints.
just about everything on that child.
My heavens, I didn't know that you were the ones that
Oh,
started
yes.
that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a wonderful program.
And it's one of a kind. There's nobody else in the country that does that. Mm-hmm. And it's been approved by the Sheriff's Association and police departments and everything else. We also donated a considerable amount of money to the playground that's down here in the Farmington
Shiawassee Park?
Shiawassee Park, yes. And we sponsor scholarships every year. I think we've given, I don't have those figures with me right now, but I think we've given well over $20,000 away in scholarships over the last several years. And we've also helped sponsor the Miss Farmington pageant before it became Miss Oakland County and all that sort of thing. And we still help sponsor that, and we also sponsor the Miss Farmington, which has just been the last few years that it started. And
Mason's Corner.
And we have had, over the years, we've had quite a few food drives, things of that nature. Bob Chappelle, who some of you may know, was just, his funeral is today, in fact.
Oh, dear.
But he was extremely active in the Goodfellows, and because of his activity, the lodge donated a lot of food and clothing and things of that nature also. So we've been involved.
How did you manage to come to Farmington? Where were you to start with?
Well, we were born and raised in southern Ohio, both of us. And I guess we were about 5 years old when both of our parents moved to Centerville, Ohio. And that's where we first met, in the first grade of Centerville High School. And it wasn't until about the 11th grade that we even much more than spoke to each other, I guess. But she decided one day, well, they used to have Sadie Hawkins Day dances. And of course, the girls asked the boys to, at that time, to take them to the Sadie Hawkins Day dance, and she invited me to take her. We've not been separated since then.
Oh my!
That was about 65, 66 years ago, and we've been married for 63 years. So then I went to General Motors Institute in Flint, Michigan, and through the sponsorship of Frigidaire in Dayton, Ohio. And after I graduated, I was transferred to the General Motors Central Office downtown Detroit in the GM building. And I worked there then for 28 years. And we first moved into Detroit, 7 Mile and Evergreen area, where we lived for about 3 years. And we were raising a family, and we wanted to get out in the, we were country people. We wanted to get out in the country. So we moved, we found this place here in Farmington, which is now Farmington Hills, and moved in there in 1959, and been there ever since. And just enjoyed the community and just tried to become a part of it.
Yes, and all 5 of our children graduated from high schools in Farmington. One of them was from North Farmington before Harrison was built, and they were the first students at the elementary school, Beechview Elementary, and also East Junior High. Each one of our kids or the other of the 5, that was the first year that the school was open. So, you know, we've seen the school system grow, and this day each one of them has a college education and are gainfully employed. We have 15 grandchildren, and 1 in Florida, 2 in Virginia, and 2 here in Michigan. So
You have a picture there of your whole family.
yes, I brought a picture for you. So, and you know, we feel like the Farmington Public School System had a great deal to do with the good upbringing that our children had.
Well, thank you so much for coming and telling us about your activities here and opening the temple so that the community can have a look at it.
Well, thank you for the
You're very
opportunity.
welcome.
It's been
Thank you.
a real pleasure.
Thanks.